It's a Saturday, it's around noon, and you're looking at a ThinkPad T60 laptop. Pretty typical system, and what's cool about today is that I get to test for the first time Veeam Endpoint Backup, the final release that's coming out very soon. Veeam Endpoint Backup I've used before. I have many articles I've written about it. Here's just a sampler of a few. And basically, it has the best chance of anything I've seen in many years to upset the home PC backup market. Let me explain. Windows 8, 8.1, they kind of bury the Windows backup and recovery features. Your average person that's sort of doing informal support for friends and family on weekends is probably not going to find a great experience when they try to restore a complete system image backup or a bare metal backup. So if a machine is irreparably harmed with viruses and whatnot, where you don't feel like spending a good chunk of your weekend troubleshooting it, what if you could just roll back your machine to the last backup that happens daily? In the middle of the night, a laptop wakes up, does a backup in the middle of the night, and goes back to sleep. Now that's appealing. So Windows Home Server has offered that since 2008 roughly, but it's becoming more expensive, and I've had more problems with it lately. So now that I have the GA code, I'm excited to have a look at how the installation actually goes. And I'm going to try to keep this video on the simpler side. I tend to do a little deeper dives into how software works, how much memory it takes, resources. This video is going to be more focused on the user interface and helping someone new to Veeam see how simple it is to set up your first backup over the network in my case. So here's the friendly wizard for the installation. Okay, what is this? SQL Server. So there are some services it's installing locally in this machine. I found them to be light on memory, low on CPU. They do nothing when you're not doing backups. The impact of this product seems minimal on day-to-day operations. On a 8-year-old laptop like this, that's kind of a big deal. This is a 64-bit Windows 8 build, but it only has 3 gig of RAM. Okay? So, yeah, older laptops that you're worried about dying at any moment or the hard drive giving it up, this happens to have a solid-state drive in it, but it's only SATA 2 speeds. Again, an 8-year-old T60 laptop. This is probably, I'd say, the target audience for this kind of product. I'll point out Veeam Endpoint Backup is free. That is in the name of the product. Throughout the beta period, they made it very, very clear the product is intended to be free and always be free. So I'll let the installer finish here. So it took under 2 minutes to install, and we're ready to click Finish. I would recommend leaving that checkbox on. Advanced recovery creation. It's very important to create a USB flash drive so you can recover in the event of a problem. All right, so it's looking for a flash drive. Let me give it one. I shoved in the flash drive. I didn't touch anything with the mouse, and it just auto-detected a new drive D that's available. Awesome. I want to leave the include hardware drivers alone. Just hit Next. And it's going to format this USB flash drive and make it bootable to a Windows P environment, a lightweight environment that can find the network and restore this laptop in case something very bad happens. Next. Gave me a summary screen of what it plans to do, and now it's actually doing it. This screen gets a little techy. You don't need to care really what it's doing, but it is Windows P, and it's building it with drivers, Windows that can run from a USB flash drive. And when I say drivers, meaning I got a certain brand Ethernet NIC on this laptop, I want to make sure that network adapters recognize when I boot from this flash drive at a later date on a bad Saturday when you're asked to resurrect this machine from the dead because its hard drive died or it's hopelessly infected, where you can restore to the previous backup. That's the idea here. So I'm going to go ahead and speed up this part of the video playback. So it's all finished. I know it's 14 after. Again, this is an old laptop. That means USB 2.0, so the speeds would be much, much faster on a USB 3.0 equipped laptop that's modern, like less than 3 years old, say. So the media is created. What does it mean? well, it's ready for later use. Let's just click Finish. Okay, so now what do you do with Veeam Backup if you don't know where it went? Well, you could touch or tap your Start button and type Veeam if you wanted and fire it up that way. But frankly, it's right here, tray icon too. By default, it's only going to be in your face or pop up. Only have it show in the tray area when there's really something to say, like it's in the middle of something. For the demo here, show icon notifications for this video. Double click there to launch the UI, and there we have it. I'm going to go with backing up the entire computer to a shared folder, not a local data store or drive. In my case, even if this machine wasn't in the house, using something like Hamachi VPN, I could make sure backups happen every day, even for people that don't live with me, my family, say. And finally, this last option, Veeam Backup and Replication Repository, if you have one. Okay, my network share requires a password. And if I hit populate, it should find the network and see how much disk space is available. So if any step is going to trip you up, it'd probably be this one if you're new to this. But if you have a NAS device or a Windows server where you can just simply set up network sharing, that's all there is to it as far as a prereq for this. For example, I happen to have a Windows Server 2012 R2 Essentials box. It has a Veeam Backup folder, backups folder, and sharing has been turned on for this user. That's it. You could have a home group. You could have any kind of network share. Okay, so now I'm ready to just tap on Next. What time of day? 12:30? Sure, why not? I'm going to create this backup job, and I'm going to run it now. Okay, so now we have a busy laptop while it does that first backup. That makes sense. We want it to go fast. Maybe you're at someone's house on a Saturday or holiday. You want that first backup to happen as quickly as possible. And it's got a lot of data to deal with. How much data? So we've got 88 gig of a 250 gig SSD. Probably pretty typical for a Windows 8.1 machine that's been around for a few years. It's actually been upgraded from Windows 7. So if you want to check on the backup status, you put your mouse in the bottom right and just hover. Or you can double click on that icon and bring up the full UI. And it's a very informative UI. So first backup began at 12:15. I paused the video for a bit there. So whole process of setting this up, creating recovery media, and starting the first backup was well under 15 minutes at this point, I believe, even on an older machine. Okay, at this point, I'm going to speed up the video until it's complete or nearly complete. So it's almost an hour later, and it's at 99%. If we look on the right, the Ethernet and the disk have calmed down. CPU is busy as it finishes doing whatever it's doing. Housekeeping there, it's done. Awesome. So how many minutes did it take? 55 minutes. Click on it, get some nice details and stats. But if you don't want to kind of geek out on how it works under the covers, yeah, don't worry about it. All you have is this friendly UI. Have someone on the phone maybe double click, even if you're not using TeamViewer or something, to see what they're doing. And they can tell you when their last backup finished. I always like to do a second backup to kind of establish a baseline of how long it takes to do that second backup when no files have changed. So basically now it just has to do a calculation on what's happened that's new since yesterday. And you can imagine it's going to be a little CPU heavy as it gets that going. Let's check in on that when it's done. Well, that was fast. So it took all of 4 minutes. Okay, so daily backups, even on a 7-8-year-old machine. are screaming right along. So, about 15 minutes to install or so, and configure the boot media, and another hour for that first backup almost, for about, was it 80-something gig of data, and then finally daily backups in all of 4 minutes. So this has gone well, but doesn't mean anything if the machine can't be restored from the emergency boot media. So remember that USB key we made there? There it is. It's got Windows PE on it. It's ready for me to test. I'm ready to see it work. So I'm now going to reboot this machine, and what's kind of cool here is, even though I'm rebooting the laptop, you're still going to see what is going on. Here it is. Okay, so this user interface, think of it as a camcorder aimed at the laptop's screen. In other words, even though this machine's been asked to reboot through the remote desktop connection you saw me on, you're going to see the BIOS boot. And instead of booting Windows normally, I'm going to hit F12 on a Lenovo laptop. That's what you hit for an alternate boot sequence. In other words, you'll be able to specify, hey, laptop, boot from USB this time around. So you saw the ThinkPad logo briefly. Your HP, Dell, whatever you have, they have different keys to do this, to specify an alternate boot order. Or you just go into your BIOS and say, hey, I want to boot from USB. So whatever the mechanism is for your laptop, you'll want to follow. I'm picking my SanDisk USB device, and now we get to see Windows PE boot. Looks kind of like Windows 8, right? It's going to take a while because it's USB 2. I'm going to go ahead and speed up this portion of the video now. Okay, the environment is now booted, and I'm going right to bare metal recovery. Okay, for me, I don't have a USB or SATA or FireWire or any attached media. I'm going to go right to the network restore. Okay, it found an Ethernet driver. That's fine. Just hit next. Shared folder sounds good to me. Next. Type in the same thing we did when we did the backup. So we're going to pick the backup we want. Now, watch what happens if we hit next here. Right, it's complaining. What it's hinting at is the tree. You need to open that up and select the actual backup job. Okay, if I hit next here, same thing. So it's trying to prompt you, hey, what do you want? I'm going to do the full backup. Entire computer? Yes, I'm crossing my fingers and trusting that this laptop will be fine after a complete restore. And there you have it. This laptop is now being restored over the network. And the speed should be decent. The network server could be any old copy of Windows or Linux or something that can do network shares. So the point there is an older machine that you might leave running with a 4 terabyte hard drive. That could be your second place that your backups go to, right? Could be that simple. And to get an idea of what's going on that server where my remote backups are, it's right here. And there you go. It's sending over the wire at about 200 megabits per second. So that sounds limited largely by the spinny drive it's physically on. So now we just wait for the data to go over the gigabit. And from one drive to another, basically, from a spinny drive over to a solid state drive. All right, I wasn't home, but that obviously finished. And I guess it's saying it only took, let's see, from 53 to 22. I'm not seeing a overall count there, but that looks like 7 minutes plus 22 minutes to me. 27 minutes, complete restore done. That is pretty good. Click this little button in the bottom right to reboot it. And again, trying to keep things simple, not necessarily showing you every little bell and whistle in this overview video. This is really giving you a taste of how simple it is to use the product. Now, I just went ahead and pulled out the USB key. It wasn't in the boot order anyway, right? It's booting off the hard drive now. That is a default of the BIOS for most machines. You're going to find that you usually have to do a little something extra to get it to boot from an alternative boot device like a USB key. And there we go. We have successfully rewound this laptop right back to where it was earlier when I first recorded that installation and first backup part of this video. So that was a complete success. You see a little clock. It's saying, hey, I'm going to do a backup at 2:30 a.m. Thank you for watching and for visiting tinkertry.com. Hopefully you found this video helpful. And please do leave some comments. Thanks.